Hello and welcome on the news. With the incessant killings in Gaza and Israel hits Syria, Lebanon after rocket attacks. Journalists targeted in Lebanon strike. Protesters stormed Dagestan airport over Israel flights. Biden talks Gaza aid with Netanyahu and El-Sisi, and second plane crash in Brazil kills 12. On Israel-Gaza war, Israel military has carried out strikes against military infrastructure in Syria and Lebanon. It's amidst concerns the country's offensive against Hamas could devolve into broader conflict across the Middle East. Early on Monday, Israel's military said Israeli fighter jets hit rocket launchers in Syria and Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in response to earlier rocket launches into Israel territory. Israeli military officials did not give more details about the attacks, including possible casualties. Israel's military has been engaged in cross-border fighting with the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah and has launched continual air raids on Syria since launching its war on Hamas. The United States has also carried out attacks on Syria in reaction to a sharp spike in rocket and drone attacks on its forces in Syria and Iraq, which it has blamed on Iran-backed proxy groups. The Pentagon on Thursday said it had carried out strikes on two facilities in Syria used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Iran-backed groups after President Joe Biden earlier pledged to respond to attacks on U.S. personnel. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, has cautioned of regional escalation if Israel continues its war against Hamas, saying earlier this month that Muslims and resistant forces will become impatient and no one can stop them. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that the conflict could spill beyond the borders of the Middle East if Israel did not end its bombardment of Gaza. On Sunday, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said there is a real risk of the war escalating into a wider regional conflict. Iranian Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdullahian said on Saturday that his country did not want to see the war spread and that it was totally wrong for Washington to blame Tehran for attacking its forces without providing proof. Iran, which backs both Hamas and Hezbollah, has denied any role in Hamas' October 7th attacks on Israel. U.S. and Israeli officials have said they have not found evidence of its involvement. Iranian government officials, however, offered their congratulations to the Palestinian armed group, describing the surprise attack as a victory for the anti-Zionist resistance. Still on Israel-Gaza conflicts, a journalist was killed in strikes close to the Israel-Lebanon border, was deliberately targeted along with 6 other media workers injured in the attacks, report has said. On October 13, video journalist Issam Abdallah, 37, was killed in southern Lebanon while covering fighting between Israel's military and the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. 6 other journalists, including Al Jazeera camera person Ali Barakai and reporter Carmen Jokada, were wounded when 2 rounds of munitions hit the village of Alma al-Shaba in quick succession. According to report on Sunday, 2 strikes in the same place in such a short space of time, just over 30 seconds, from the same direction clearly indicates precise targeting, citing the preliminary results of an investigation based on video footage and ballistic analysis. It is unlikely that the journalists were mistaken for combatants, especially as they were not hiding. In order to have a clear field of vision, they had been in the open for over an hour on the top of a hill. They were wearing helmets and bulletproof waistcoats marked press. Their car was also identified as press thanks to a marking on the roof, according to witnesses. While report did not directly attribute responsibility to Israel, the Press Freedom Advocacy Organization said journalists had witnessed Israeli military helicopters near the scene and the strikes had come from the direction of the Israeli border. The Al Jazeera media network has accused Israel's military of deliberately aiming the journalists to silence the media, condemning the attacks as part of a pattern of repeated atrocities against journalists. The Israeli army did not quickly respond to a request for comment. Israel's military has not acknowledged responsibility for the attacks, but a spokesperson previously said officials were very sorry for Abdullah's death and were looking into the matter. Last week, the wife, son, daughter, and grandson of Wahil Daudu, Al Jazeera Arabic's bureau chief in Gaza, were killed in an Israeli airstrike on the Nusra refugee camp in central Gaza. Still sticking with Israel-Gaza war, several people have stormed the main airport in Russia Dagestan region ostensibly to protest against the arrival of a flight from Israel amidst the war in Gaza. On Sunday, the crowd broke past security, with some making it onto the runway of Makachalka Airport before they were removed by security forces. More than 150 active participants in the unrest have been identified. 60 of them have been arrested, Russia Interior Ministry said in a statement. 9 police officers were injured in clashes with the crowd, including 2 who were receiving treatment at a hospital. Reports said the airliner in a question belonged to Russian carrier Red Wings. Footage showed passengers rushing to re-enter the plane amidst commotion on the runway of Makachalka Airport. Videos also show the protesting crowd breaking down glass doors and running through the airport, with some chanting anti-Jewish slogans. On the landing field, some were seen waving Palestinian flags and others checking the passports of arriving passengers. Several outlets also showed photos and videos of dozens of people waiting outside the airport, seemingly to stop cars. Another group were seen trying to topple over a patrol car. One protester could be seen in the videos holding a sign reading "Child killers have no place in Dagestan." The incident comes as Israel pushes forward with expanded ground operations inside the Gaza Strip, even as heavy aerial bombardment continues. Officials in Gaza say over 800,000 people, Palestinians, including 3,324 children, have been killed since the war began on October 7th, when Hamas, the group running the besieged enclave, launched a surprise attack inside Israel. At least 1,400 Israelis and foreign nationals have been killed in the Hamas attack, according to Israeli officials. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said in a statement released on Sunday night, said that Israel expects the Russian law enforcement authorities to protect the safety of all Israeli citizens and Jews wherever they may be, and to act resolutely against the rioters and against the wild incitement directed against Jews and Israelis. Earlier on Sunday, reports said a Jewish center in the city of Nalchik in the nearby Republic of Kabardino-Balkarai had been set on fire. Numerous reports from Israel, citing Israeli security officials, said that the Israeli passengers were isolated and guarded at Makachala Airport after the incident in Dagestan. According to reports, the plan was to fly them directly onto Moscow. Now, Joe Biden, United States President, has called for accelerating humanitarian assistance to Gaza in phone calls with the leaders of Egypt and Israel, the White House had said. On Sunday, Biden spoke with the two leaders separately, and they deliberated different aspects of the conflict in Palestine as Israel continues to pound Gaza, according to the White House. During the call with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the two committed to the important acceleration and surge of assistance following into Gaza beginning today and then continuously, the White House added. Humanitarian aid has seeped into Gaza through the Rafah crossing run by Egypt, the only crossing not controlled by Israel. However, the United Nations and others have said the current amount of aid is woefully inadequate in answering the needs of the 2.3 million Palestinians in the enclave. As Egypt remains concerned about the fate of Palestinians who may wish to flee Gaza, the White House said that ensuring that Palestinians in Gaza are not displaced to Egypt or any other nation was also on the agenda. El-Sisi has continually said Palestinians should not move away from their ancestral lands in order for them to be able to achieve a long-standing dream of nationhood. To Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Biden said Israel has every right and responsibility to defend its citizens from terrorism, but he added that this needs to happen in a manner consistent with international humanitarian law that prioritizes protection of civilians. Biden also underscored the need to immediately and significantly increase the flow of humanitarian assistance to meet the needs of civilians in Gaza, the White House said. Over 8,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed by Israeli airstrikes since it began hitting the besieged enclave after a surprise attack by Hamas on October 7th killed about 1,400 Israelis. Earlier this week, Gaza experienced a near-total communication blackout, but some internet and mobile connection has since been restored. The enclave is also running dangerously low on fuel, food, water, and medicine. Israel also has launched ground operations in Gaza, which have gradually intensified in the past few days. Fighting is ongoing on the ground, with Palestinian armed groups, including Hamas. The Israeli military on Sunday also said that its call 2 weeks ago for Palestinians to evacuate northern Gaza, which the United Nations and right groups have heavily criticized, is now urgent. According to the White House, Biden and Netanyahu yesterday also discussed efforts to secure the release of captives taken by Hamas and other groups. Israel said on Sunday it has confirmed 239 captives are being held in Gaza. Away from Israel, Gaza war now to Brazil. According to authorities, no less than 21 people, including an infant, have died after a small plane crashed in the northwestern Brazilian state of Acre. A statement by the Acre state government on Sunday said the plane was a single-engine Casnac caravan and it crashed near the Rio Branco airport. All 10 passengers, 9 adults and an infant, as well as the pilot and the co-pilot, all died at the scene, it said, adding that there will be an investigation. It remains unclear what the passengers' nationalities are. The plane was headed to Envira, a small town in the neighboring Amazonas state of Brazil. It was also reportedly operated by a local firm ART Taxi Aéreo. Reports said the plane exploded in flames on impact and caused a forest fire in a remote area near Brazil's border with Peru and Bolivia. This is the second such occurrence in less than 2 months, as 14 people had perished on board a small jet that crashed in Amazonas state in September. All the victims of that crash, 12 passengers and 2 crew members, were Brazilian tourists. The aircraft crashed as it was approaching the tourist town of Barcelos in heavy rain with low visibility, according to officials. Still blocking aid to Gaza probable crime on the ICC. Karim Khan, the International Criminal Court's prosecutor, said in the Egyptian capital Cairo on Sunday that Israel must make discernible efforts to make sure civilians get basic food and medicine. In a video statement posted earlier on X, Khan cautioned that restriction of those rights could give rise to criminal responsibility under the Rome Statute. There should not be any impediment to humanitarian relief supplies going to children, to women and men, civilians, Khan said in the video from the Rafah crossing border with Egypt. They are innocent. They have rights under international humanitarian law, Khan added. These rights are part of the Geneva Conventions and they give rise to even criminal responsibility when these rights are curtailed under the Rome Statute, he added. The prosecutor also said he hopes to visit the Gaza Strip and Israel while he is in the region, as his office is determined to ensure to vindicate those rights wherever possible and wherever we have jurisdiction. Since Israel started bombarding the densely populated Palestinian enclave after a deadly Hamas attack, aid supplies to Gaza have been minimal. Shortly afterward, Israel imposed a total siege on the territory, cutting off its residents from electricity, water, and food supplies. Earlier this week, Oxfam said Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war in Gaza, noting that since the war erupted, Gaza has received only 2% of the food it normally would have seen delivered. On October 21st, 8 trucks started coming into Gaza Strip from the Rafah crossing with Egypt, but aid agencies have called that a drop in the ocean. Moving now to Africa, leaders convened for global summit in Brazzaville, the capital of the Republic of Congo. Brazzaville had the privilege of hosting the summit of the 3 major tropical forest basins on the planet from October 26 to 28, the Amazon, Congo, and Borneo Mekong basins. These basins represent 80% of the world's forest cover and roughly 3/4 of its biodiversity. Over 3,000 participants, including government representatives, international organizations, NGOs, civil society, scientists, researchers, environmentalists, and indigenous populations took part in this very event. No fewer than 10 heads of state from the continent, including Congo, DR Congo, Burundi, Central Africa Republic, CAR, Comoros, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Sao Tome and Principe were in attendance. However, no president from the Amazon or Borneo made the journey to Brazzaville. Colombia and Venezuela sent their respective ministers of foreign affairs. The key goals of the summit included building a global coalition to accelerate the energy transition and boost collaboration between these basins, recognized as the world's major ecological lungs, to go further. In the declaration following the deliberations, the participants reaffirmed their commitment to lay the groundwork for a roadmap towards creating a common framework for cooperation among the three basins. During the summit, President Felix Tshisekedi of the DR Congo, a country that alone covers 62% of the forest in the Congo Basin, voiced concern about the damage of ecosystems by a neighboring country, precisely Rwanda. Currently in the Virunga Park, Eastern DR Congo, one of the world's most significant natural reserves in terms of forest and biodiversity, armed activities are jeopardizing this ecosystem, destroying it. And this decision wasn't made in Washington, Brussels, London, or Paris. It was decided in Africa, specifically in Kigali, he lamented. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, as well as French President Emmanuel Macron and former Brazilian President Lula da Silva participated via video conference to hail the initiative. President of the Republic of Congo, Denis Sassou Nguesso, provided the core of the meeting. This summit will primarily focus, among other things, defining a governance framework within the scope of a new multilateralism through a cooperation agreement aiming for a global alliance of the three basins, he stated. At the Brazzaville Summit on the three tropical forest basins, the second of its kind following the 2011 meeting, participants shared their desire for this meeting to occur frequently. They also hope that these three forest regions will speak with one voice at the upcoming COP28 planned for November in the United Arab Emirates. In part 2, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Stories from Nigeria on international relations. Olaf Scholz meets Tinubu at Aso Rock. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has met with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Sunday, October 29th, as scheduled as part of a trip to West African country. Report gathered that Scholz is looking to expand its trade partners and diversify economic partnerships in the energy-rich region. However, in his third trip to Africa since he took office in 2021 and his second this year, he pushed for further development of Nigeria's capacity to meet local needs, even as Germany seeks better trade ties with its second largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa. The yearly trade volume between Germany and Nigeria is estimated to be over 3 billion euros. Scholz informed Tinubu during their discussion in Abuja that a major emphasis of the two nations' cooperation will be collaborating with Nigeria to tackle regional and global concerns like migration, security, and the occurrence of coups in West and Central Africa. There are a lot of chances, not just from gas and oil, but for better using the capacities of your country, but also for going into investments for the future, which is about hydrogen, Scholz stated. Observers have identified Africa as a potential exporter of hydrogen energy amidst calls for an energy shift. Under strong internal pressure to solve immigration-related worries, the German Chancellor deliberated the best way to manage migration by having a co-management which is helping the two countries the best. Before the meeting, Scholz said Germany has a considerable demand for natural gas and concrete amounts of supplies should be agreed on in negotiations between Nigeria gas producers and German gas traders. Nigeria has Africa's major proven gas reserves projected to be 202 trillion cubic feet and has been intent on working toward helping meet Europe's needs after Russia sharply reduced natural gas flows following its war with Ukraine. Germany, though, has diversified its gas supplies from Russia since the war. The Nigerian leader sought Germany's support in helping to confront the country's security and economic challenges. Scholz will also meet with West Africa's regional bloc of ECOWAS, Commission President Omar Aliyu Toure, and open a German-Nigerian business forum in the economic hub of Lagos. He then heads to Ghana, where he will end his trip on Tuesday. And finally on the news, Buhari talks on P&ID case. Ex-President Muhammadu Buhari has applauded the recent victory in the $11 billion process and industrial development's P&ID arbitration award dispute as frustrating and attempted haste of historic proportions. Buhari voiced relief at the judgment delivered by Justice Robin Knowles of the Commercial Courts of England and Wales, who sustained Nigeria's claim that the award was obtained through fraud in a statement titled "A Matter of Principle." The former president stressed the gravity of the situation, saying this was an attempted haste of historic proportions, an effort to steal from the treasury a third of Nigeria's foreign reserves. He went on to high point the efforts carried to reveal evidence of wrongdoing in the case. Buhari said amidst the demand that Nigeria must pay the arbitration award, he tasked the late Abba Kyari, who was his chief of staff then, and Abubakar Malami, former Attorney General of the Federation, to look for ways Nigeria could get a fair hearing. He agreed that one of PNID's founders had committed perjury, and he agreed that PNID had somehow found in its possession a steady supply of Nigeria's privileged internal legal documents outlining our plans and strategies and problems. He added, "My own view is that this whole sorry affair shows how important it is to follow the legal process in resolving a dispute." He added. Buhari, however, also noted the judge's caution about the arbitration process in London. A recap of major stories says Israel hits Syria, Lebanon after rocket attacks. Journalists targeted in Lebanon strike. Protesters storm Dagestan airport over Israel flight. Biden talks Gaza aid with Netanyahu and El-Sisi. And second plane crash in Brazil kills 12. And that's you up to date with global news and Nigerian news. Thanks for watching. I am X-Ray.